Well, we're recording this straight after the game, but you lovely lot will be seeing it on Sunday morning because I'm buying myself a bit of time, buying myself a day off on Sunday. So I've got Michael, Mr. Levy Jr. is with me. He's just watched the game. You got my views last night, so we get mostly his opinions now, and then based on what he says, I'll see if he's got any sneaky little observations of stuff I didn't probably think of. How'd you enjoy the game, mate?
Yeah, Boyle Sports Champions. You'll never sing that. I think that's what we've got to get going. Look, I enjoyed having a look at the working process. I still think there's a little bit of work to do, which we'll go into. Obviously, delighted to get the win, and pleased for Areola to sort of be the hero in a largely meaningless. I mean, we are Boyle Sports Champions, but a largely meaningless sort of penalty shootout because he's not been historically very good at penalties. But yeah, I'm pleased to have got it over the line. We said on the last episode that winning is a habit, and so is losing. And people are going to come back in the comments and say, what about the year Avram Grant won every pre-season game and took us down? But look, I do think psychologically it's got us off on the right footing. And yeah, several other observations that we'll go into. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the game. Not so much the first half, but we'll talk about that, I think.
Yeah, it was a bit slow. Well, we are slow. It was slow. We are slow. We're a very, very slow team, which I think a lot of our problems stem from, actually. So, give me a couple of players that impressed you. Who was your top two or three players in that game?
Well, I was looking out today for Diouf because he had a couple of dodgy games and then he had a great game last time. And we know now that his crossing is a danger, the way he whips the ball over. But the jury's been out a little bit on his defending. So I personally was doing a little bit. Do you remember the old player cam you could do on Sky
Yes,
Sports?
yes.
I was watching him off the ball quite a lot more than probably most people would. I was actually quite impressed with his defending today. I thought he put the foot in a few times, won some tackles in the sort of left back position as opposed to wing back. And he had a couple of times where the ball was over at the back post where he'd been out of position in the previous games, but he was there to win a few headers at the back stick. So I was quite impressed with him. Bowen's always industrious and always works hard, though, as we'll talk about, I don't think I'm alone in thinking he's not in his best position playing as a centre forward. And I quite like the impact, surprisingly, of Souček when he came on, because a lot of people have opinions on James Ward-Prowse, who's also a bit of a wasp, buzzing around and industrious and, does his best, certainly energetic. But I actually thought that, surprisingly, I thought Souček was pretty good on the ball when he came on. He attempted a few dribbles and, he was, of course, responsible for Fulkrug's assist just on the byline inside the box, cutting it back, which we'll talk about later on with the pressing. But generally, I imagine if you do your player ratings, I don't think many people will be getting slaughtered. And equally, I don't think many people will be getting a 10, So pretty consistent, pre-season friendly, nice little warm-up. Just as we'll talk about maybe in a minute, it's one or two things tactically that I'm not sure are quite working yet.
Well, God, share them, mate.
Well, yeah, without hogging it
too
much.
No.
So I thought for the first 20 minutes is about all it lasted. We seem to have the same formation, but slightly different roles in the shape. And I think Gio alluded to it on the watch along. Our three centre-backs, it was more like a 3 at the back as opposed to a 5. So our 3 centre-backs were allowed to just sit as a 3 and allow the wing-backs to push up a little bit further forward. Now, if you remember this time pre-season last year, we were worried with Lopetegui about how much Wan-Bissaka was being asked to go up, a bit further up, 10 or 15 yards further up. And I thought the last two games especially at the beginning of the Bournemouth game, that diagonal ball was being dropped over where Wan-Bissaka normally would be in position and cutting us open a little bit. So I was watching out for that today. The problem when you have the 3 centre-backs, just the centre-backs, and push on the wide players, which I want to see them attacking and getting crosses in, especially the likes of Diouf and the way Wan-Bissaka gets forward, is your 3 centre-backs then have to cover the territory at the back, and they tend to spread more. And especially if the ball goes wide, we're seeing Aguerd really go over to the left of the pitch to get the ball, and equally to Debo over to the right, which was leaving us massive gaps for through balls. And I feel like if Lille had somebody who was particularly quick, would have got in behind us. So think how we played against Chelsea when we asked Alvarez to drop between the defenders.
I was there for the game.
Jackson. So that's something that wasn't exploited today, but I think we need to look out for it. The experiment was over with that, though, because I made some notes. After about 20 minutes, we seemed to be back as a 5. I don't know if that was by design or just because we seemed to really, really retreat under Potter. We seemed very content to sit back in our shape, move as one unit, like a crab across the pitch, and try to stay in tight there. But without being too pessimistic, and I don't want to come on here and be negative. I'm a fan like you and everybody watching. All I can do is call in what I'm seeing.
Yeah, of course, of course.
And when we win 5-0, you'll hear me saying great things, and when I feel there's things to work on, you'll hear me talking about it as a fan. So apologies if this is negative. I do feel this season it's going to be a little bit laborious because Potter will sit in. He will allow the other team to have a bit more possession. And it's almost like he's content just to keep possession in our own third and just not lose the ball. And ultimately, he kind of feels a little bit, I don't know, we came back today, but it's more don't lose than go and win. And I'm not sure about this. I'll let you get a word in on your own program in a minute, Chris. But I'm also a little bit worried about this playing out from the back. Of course, it's glaringly obvious. I know Areola was the hero today in the penalty show. It's glaringly obvious that even when we do try to play out from the back, Areola can't. I do worry that the rest of our players are not particularly equipped. I mean, just on Areola, we had a little spell there in the first half where Wan-Bissaka did really well maintaining control of the ball, dribbled back in his own own full back position, kind of. I know he was wing back, kind of the full back position. Got the ball, played it back calmly to Areola, who smashed it straight down the pitch.
Yeah.
5 minutes later, we took a goal kick, and the defender came into the box, took it from the 6-yard box, played it about straight back to Areola, who smashed it straight down the pitch. It kind of seems redundant trying to play this way. So I think, we definitely need Hermansen in that. Hermansen will change that, I think.
Yes.
Still, we don't look calm playing it out from the back. We still don't. We definitely need an athlete in there. I still maintain that. And as we'll talk about later on, I just think that Füllkrug although scored today, is largely anonymous for the game, and having a drop so deep to get involved, that I would just like to see us bring in a real pacey, lightning, dynamic, explosive centre forward as an option. Maybe like Callum Wilson used to be 25 years ago. But yeah, just that's my initial thing so far.
Yeah. Look, I thought there was we did sit back too much. I actually thought the problems, funny enough, in Wan-Bissaka's position came from on a couple of occasions when Todibo went too high pressing and left the gap behind him. Yeah. And at first, the first big tackle you saw from Wan-Bissaka within the first 10 minutes actually was as a result of that. I do. The thing is, I know what you're saying about it's not to lose. And I thought the same with Moyes. They don't think like that. They just think this is the tactic that's going to win them the game. So they're not, even when Moyes, I can't even remember what the stat was, but it was a stat away from home against the top 6. And it was something like Moyes had won once in 70 games at all the clubs he'd been at, going away from home. And there was no evidence to suggest he was going to go and win. I think ultimately we did, though, didn't we? But he still was convinced that was the way that was going to win. That was how he was going to win. And I think that is the same with Potter. I don't think it's going to be thrilling. I really, really don't. What I do like about it, though, I do like that we do seem to now have a manager who's willing to change during the game. And that's quite new, I think, really. I don't think Moyes, look at Moyes, particularly in the last season, look at him standing there, particularly against Crystal Palace. The amount of times we were getting dumped, we were getting hammered, and he'd wait until half time. So I don't mind it so much if a manager's going to look at something and look at it after 10, 15 minutes ago. Do you know what? I'm gonna fix that there. I do actually think that their substitution helped us. But it was quite ultimately they scored when we were just coming into the game. The problem is in midfield. So actually, I think there were points where actually all the back three showed their technical ability. You had a Gurge running down the wing, did a lovely exchange of passes with Juff, played the ball over, beautiful. You had Kilman make a lovely run out from the back, and also just before he went off, I think you had Todibo doing the same thing. Came out, made an extra man in midfield, and actually played a pass to Juff, which set up an attack. So I think technically, also, they can all pass the ball. So I think whatever Potter's trying to do, and I was thinking about it when I was watching it, he's probably got, in terms of the ingredients, this is better than what he took over at Brighton because he had to turn Lewis Dunk into that player. He had actually he's got these players that have the technical ability. I thought actually Wan-Bissaka was quite press resistant, to use a very modern term, and actually, but you're right, it was going back to Areola. It was getting hoofed up there. I just think that does get fixed, and in many respects, I was very pleased for him because he became the hero of the day. Because I know it's probably him saying goodbye. Is he going to leave now? No. But I think it was nice for him to have that little bit of glory. But no, he doesn't suit what we're doing. Midfield remains a big problem, though, mate. A big problem. And you're right about Ward-Prowse. I thought he was just constant and he was non-stop. I thought Paqueta was poor.
Yeah, but there's mitigation for that, I think, which we'll talk about in a sec. Well, first, just to touch on a couple of things you said there, I think we've got 3 candidates in the 3 centre backs that all 3 of them can come out with a ball. I think what we need to do is designate someone to have that role. I would maybe go for Aguerd. Someone like Gio says a lot about having a fullback in there as one of the 3, so they can bring the ball out. That I agree with the idea, but we have 3 candidates that can do that. If Aguerd's allowed to do that and come and make up the extra man in the midfield, then that's no problem. On what you're saying there about Paqueta, the fact that we sit so deep and that most of the game, I mean, I've not seen any heat maps or anything, but most of our, especially the first half, we were camped in our final third.
Yeah.
When you've got him in there and you've got nobody moving off the ball, which is a big problem for us. Like we said, Bowen has to come narrow. He later in the second half for a period drifted out to the right, which he sometimes does off his own back in games. And we spoke about it before about him being better on the right, but still scoring as a centre forward. And a lot of those occasions, it's because he's took it on his own shoulders to drift out to the right. But I think looking ahead of him, when he does get the ball, Paqueta's so deep that he's almost a CDM. He's almost doing the role that Souček plays, where he's getting back, putting his body on the line, he's breaking up play. And when he looks up for options, he's going to pass it to Ward-Prowse, who's going to pass it straight back to him or back to the goalkeeper. He's not got any runners. This is why I really feel like we need someone who's going to give us pace and angles.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had someone like a lot of people don't like him, but someone as fast as Jackson from Chelsea, or like we say, if you had someone that would get on the shoulder, or a Vardy in his prime, someone to get on the shoulder and make runs behind, we've seen what he could do in the Conference League final, picking out Bowen. I just feel that what he's being asked to do at the moment is roll his sleeves up and really sit just in front of defenders, like all the midfield were doing, just sitting in front of the defenders, trying to keep the ball in our own third, and when he looks up, there's no outball. Other than if Wan-Bissaka can get down the flank or Diouf can get down the flank. I feel like we're handcuffing him, really, but he was poor today. But it's not his game.
No, well, we've been slow for years. I've been saying it for years. And you can actually see it. It's so evident when we've got a fast player in the team. So you watch Aguerd today, there was a bit we had to sprint back. It was so obvious we had a fast player. It's because the rest of them are so damn slow. I would love that as an option. A fast centre forward, I think it'd be very, very good. I'm still hopeful we might do it. So I do think it fixes the team. I think that and the midfield fixes the team. And, get someone. It's not just an athlete and an energetic player. It's someone that can also play one-touch football, because Potts wants to do that. Paqueta wants to do that, and that would get us up the pitch so much more quickly than we do. It can be quite laborious, actually. But
I think he's going to stay like that.
Well, he's got to fix it. He won't leave that midfield like that. He can't. He just can't.
We just need to quicken up the pace of our passing. We need to quicken up the passing. And we had a little spell around about the 40-minute mark where we did that. And we had a good little spell just before half time. And then we had another little spell in the second half where we quickened up our passing a little bit. And it just as we started to get to grips with the fact that we played a better tempo, 1 and 2 touch passing, it all looked a little bit more alive. We ended up with that midfield of JWP, Guido Rodriguez,
I know.
and Souček.
I know. So, I was going to ask what you thought of the substitutions. I know you've already mentioned Souček, but that was the midfield. I mean, just almost any combinations he makes, there's just still lacking for everything he's got. He's still lacking the one thing that almost none of the 8 or 9 midfields that we have got, which is that pace and that athleticism. Is really, really difficult. I don't know. What did you make of Rodriguez coming off? Why is he doing that? I mean, he was a bad one point. He tried to chase back and it did not look good.
Yeah, he's in treacle. I'm sure I could outrun him myself at 45 years old and 17 stone. But yeah, look, we've been saying it for a long time, haven't we? I just think, as in terms of wanting to play that way, you need people that are either good on the ball, good little passers, which Ward-Prowse is, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? You can't say that he's not a good passer, but it's painfully
He's
slow.
okay. He's a safe passer.
Yeah,
He's not brilliant. I think that's the thing. If you put someone brilliant in there,
yeah,
it's you want the industry, which he's got. It was him chasing back. He rescued Rodriguez, by the way, when he sprinted back.
yeah,
You
yeah.
want
Well,
the industry and something else, one
yeah.
other quality.
We're crying out for an athlete. Actually, I disagree with you, respectfully disagree with you on your video the other day about Ezekiel Palacios. He's not known for his pace at all, mate. He's a level above JWP and a
Yeah, yeah,
great
yeah.
passer and a great technician. He's kind of
Yes,
like, he's a
but
better
he's got the
version
work
of, but
rate. He's
yeah,
perpetual motion. He doesn't
exactly that.
stop. He doesn't stop, and he's got all the
Exactly.
quality as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's like a
yeah,
metronome. But what we
yeah,
really
exactly.
need, and we've been screaming out for it, is a powerful, pace and power athlete in there. Then you can have someone in there who's a passer or who's safe when you've got legs around them. We don't have that. When we talk about pace, there's got to be a way to get Guilherme some game time. I was disappointed he didn't get a sniff today,
Yeah.
as well as Marshall not even being on the bench. I don't know if there was mitigating circumstances for that. Just on our press, it really needs work as well, because we don't press as a pack, we press as individuals. You pointed out
Yeah,
a
yeah.
minute ago when Kilman went tearing out. I also felt that both Paqueta and James Ward-Prowse were drawn out to their right side, to their right back or left back respectively. And when they get drawn out to one side, it leaves a gaping hole through the middle of our midfield, and then we are getting played straight through. Full crew doesn't have the mobility. I'm worried now, and I don't know if anyone else has spotted this, and perhaps I'm being overly negative, but it's just my concern from today. He was getting muscled off the ball, and this is full crew, right? And so could it be that, like when some boxers come down a weight or take too much weight
You think
off,
he's
they
lost too
lose a bit
much
of their
weight?
strength?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not sure I know he looks trimmer. He doesn't
yeah,
really look any faster, but I'm not sure he's got the same strength. So
yeah,
that's
yeah,
something that
yeah.
is my,
Yeah. There was a couple. He was a big lump. Though. There was a couple of headers that he got done on, but I
yeah.
did think the guy was, But I think there was a lot to like from Fulkrug. I thought he got better as the game went on, actually, as well. And I do think I don't particularly like Bowen. That wouldn't be my choice. But if we're gonna play this system, then yeah, which I think we will. We've not seen anything different, really, have we? And with a shape and the system may change, the tactics within it may change, but this shape looks like it's there to stay. I do think him and Bowen will score goals, but the pace is a problem. It remains a problem, irrespective of whoever's in charge. Just genuinely, the number of times that we've played teams over the years, and I've said, well, actually, the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth fastest players on the pitch were all the oppositions. Not like we even
Yeah.
had one who could go in there. So yeah, look, that needs sorting out. I think it does. But I think we will. I do think we will. I mean, because I think it will be a tedious season if we do have to play with that midfield all the time. And I just don't think he will. I don't think he will. I think it's really important who we get in, obviously. And I think once we do that, I think it solves a hell of a lot of problems. And he can't. We do seem to want to play in front of the opposition a lot rather than behind them. And I do think we can mix it up. And this is where I think the wing backs are going to come in. But again, you need more than just Paqueta to feed them. And this is the thing. So I do think you're going to get the long ball feed. I do think you're going to get a Gerd doing that with the long ball. I think you've seen it at a number. He got in enough times. Juff got in enough times, and also he's got that wonderful ability. He doesn't even necessarily need to beat a player, which is a great thing to have. I've been incredibly impressed with him again. I counted at least 4 dangerous balls went in. And that's going to keep people on the back foot. When you've got them on the back foot, it's just that centre of the pitch. I think we're going to attack fine down the right. I think now we'll attack fine down the left. That the centre's got to be fixed, and he will absolutely know that. It's just when the substitutions came on, and I think you're right about Souček, and he did do a little bit better. And I'd keep him in the squad. I'd keep Souček in the squad, but others would go before him. It just felt like more of the same. I think they're all intrigued at a lot of it, and I mean that from an outright pace. I don't mean in terms of effort. As I say, Ward-Prowse is. I could totally understand why he's played. I thought he was the best of them. I thought Ward-Prowse, Paqueta, Potts and Ward-Prowse, but Ward-Prowse was the best today, but not
Safety
because of anything outstanding. Wow, he's a grafter. He's a grafter. But it's not. You can get a talented grafter. There's one other. He's just missing that attribute, and that outstanding attribute, by the way, was his set pieces. So you get that, but you knew at some point in a game he would create, and he had that in his first season. He had the statistics, which was he would create X amount of chances during a game. Our XG, for example, was higher as a result of what he was doing. This is not the case anymore. I feel he's just not. So we've missed the one thing, the one reason you might sign James Ward-Prowse for. I don't think he's offering that anymore. So now all we've got is the endeavour. Well, I was expecting endeavour from pretty much most players anyway. So it needs to be, needs to be looked at. Anyone disappoint you particularly?
Well, look, let me just say this because in case I come across too negative, there are reasons to be cheerful. Let me just say that first of all, because once a man's between the sticks, we're not going to have this situation where we keep possession of the ball, play it back to Areola, and he smashes up the field. So we will be able to start to get a style of play and some sort of ethos that everyone's on the same page. That's good. We've already said we've got 3 ball players. So like we're saying, designate one to do that. Certainly work those diagonals for Maguire and having him step out with the ball. Although, no point throwing them diagonals up if our wing backs are in our own third and Bowen's narrow. I think think this. I mean, I think you're right. We're going to stay with this shape. I think. I think looking at the squad, I think it's crying out for a 4-3-3. That would get the best out of so many players, including our captain and best player. But it is what it is. And I think you're right in what you're saying. When we do sort out that centre midfield position, I think that's going to be the thing that unlocks loads of it. Just allow yourself a minute to consider that late in the window, we managed to get Douglas Luiz sitting in there with a Paqueta, being able to progress. We're still missing a little link between our midfield and the forward players, but there are things to be optimistic about, I think. And what was it? What you asked me about?
Well, if you were, less than pleased, I asked you at the start who impressed you. Anybody you were not?
Well, I mean,
you probably covered it, but
people won't like this, I'm afraid, Gonzo. But I'm less than pleased with Potter. I was less than pleased with those substitutions. I'm less than pleased that we're so happy to sit and play keep ball in our own third. You intimated earlier on that he's a manager that will change things. I was going to ask you at the time to give me evidence of that, because we sat in the same shape all the game today. I mean, and in the past, he didn't make a sub even in a friendly until gone 70 minutes. I'm not sure how much he does change.
I think you did. Do I think he's going to change the shape? No, but I think he probably identified what was wrong in the first 10 minutes and then pulled it back. Did we like what he did? No, but I think he did pull the wing backs back into shape. I think he will do that rather than just leaving it. Will we like it? No, I don't think. I'm not going to sit here and defend. I don't think we'll like a lot of what we see this season. I really don't. But I do think we need to just survive, and I think because my expectation level is so low, I expect nothing for Christmas. So without being funny, if I get a bit of Christmas dinner, I'll be happy. Do you know what I mean? I'm not expecting anything. I do expect us to grind out this season. I don't expect us to have the best flair. I don't expect us to finish in the top half. I don't expect any of that. But I've still gone up because I was, as you know, sort of expecting us to go down. Or at least be mixing around with it. I think with the goalkeeper now, I think from what I've seen with Juff, I think from what I've seen with Bowen and Fulkrug, I think we score enough goals. And I think we'll be tight enough because of his boring way that I think will probably stay up. Is that what we wanted when Moyes moved on? No, but I'm almost, there's been a whole other load of stuff that's happened in the middle of that, which I've been extremely concerned about. So yeah, I don't think he's going to be the manager that's going to let goal after goal after goal go in and not change it, which is what both Moyes and Moyes at the end, certainly, and then Lopetegui were doing. So I think that's, I don't think you're going to like the tactics, but I think he will tweak it.
Look, last negative thing, because I realised that we're voicing our concerns as just genuine fans and we can only say it how we see it. And let's not forget we've won today. We've won the
Yeah,
fabulous
yeah.
Spoil Sports Cup, you know, and things are looking good. There's reasons to be cheerful. But this whole thing about playing out from the back, we've had one example. So apologies, everyone. We've had one example of that really working. And that was the 29 stroke 30 past goal against Man United in a game a week before their final in the Europa League, where if you
Yeah.
go and watch it again, where Soucek scored, they were mannequins, mate. Right? They stood around like traffic cones. We could get 11 of us people watching this together, and I'm sure we could knock 29 passes about around traffic cones. Right? As soon as we got a live one and we've got to play an opponent that are closing us down, chasing us down, getting in position and moving as one, we are not. I love the fact we've got a style of play because we never had it this time last year under Lopetegui. I love the fact Potter knows what he wants to do. I love the fact we're getting those pieces in. I don't feel as though we're going into the Sunderland game, kicking off our Premier League season, really adept or even halfway there on keeping the ball, playing out from the back, playing through the press. I still feel like we're an accident waiting to happen. And that's a concern of mine.
I
But
think you're
we'll
always going
finish
to
on a
have. I think
positive
you're
in a
always
minute.
going to have that though when you have an overly defensive manager. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm just. It's not even like I'm coming round to it. I've just accepted where we are. I've said this so many times on videos over the years. My favourite football was actually what Alan Pardew produced, because Alan Pardew came and he said, "I'd like to sort of attack in about 6 passes if possible."
Bang, bang, bang. Yeah.
You know, I like that. That's my favourite. I said this. I said this so many times over the years. I preferred Klopp's football to Guardiola's. I don't like it really. I don't. You know, when Barcelona and all that, Xavi to Iniesta, back to Xavi, back to Iniesta, it bored me to tears. I didn't really watch them. I don't really like it. But I have a choice to switch off Barcelona, right? I prefer watching Dortmund play with Royce and all that. They were just going for it. I loved all that, right? If I was going to watch anyone, it would have been them at the time. But I have to watch West Ham, you know, because they're my team. So, yeah, I'm not convinced that's what you're saying. I'm not convinced that's ever going to work. I don't even think it's going to work this season. I think if we're going to score goals, they might be the kind of goals like you see, like the goals you've seen in the last 2 games, like where we nick it off of the opposition, and like you saw there, and Bowen will play it someone else, and then we'll score a tap in, or the kind of crosses that Fulkrug probably should have scored with a header that the goalkeeper pulled off a Hollywood save from Wan-Bissaka, or from the other side, like you're just going to continue seeing with Juve. And I think for all our fanciness and all our fancy play, it's almost going to be like having an a la carte menu where you got all this stuff on it, but what you're going to get served up is egg and chips at the end of it to score the goal. That's what we're going to be. Honestly, we're going to be egg and chips with a bit of parsley on the side, because I just think that's what we're going to be. Because I don't see Potter as Guardiola. I don't see him as that guy. I don't see that. I see him as almost like an old style manager who's adapted and he's modernized, but ultimately he wants to keep it tight at the back. And yeah, I don't expect him to serve up cordon bleu stuff. I just don't expect it of him. I don't think it's going to happen. So yeah, I'm not sure I'm not sure you'll see too many of those Man United goals. And I'm not sure. I wonder how much he expects to do it. I don't think that's why we're passing it at the back. I don't even think that's why we're doing it. I think he's doing it so they don't have the ball. Now the
We've
irony
got
is we're giving
possession,
them the
they
ball
can't
too
score.
much. Exactly
Yeah.
that. I think that's
Yeah.
what that is. I don't think it's because he's trying to be Frank Rijkaard's Barcelona.
I entirely agree with you. I'm just mindful of the fact that we've won last night. You know, people will see your realistic views as being a bit negative, especially after a win. I know you can't please all the people all the time, but let's not forget we've got a new keeper in there now. At least we've got a style of play. We've got Juve that looks exciting, especially with a crossing. If we can make that click,
Yeah.
I'm glad in the end that Aguirre stayed and that we've not got rid of him. I like the fact that we closed down the way we did for the goal, because I think our press needs work. Walker Peters did great, closed it down when we nicked the ball back for our goal on the right.
Yep.
He got a little touch on it, over to Bowen to Soucek straight on, crossed it to Fuller. I still think we can get the better out of Fulkrug, rather than him being an almost a 10 in like a Sheringham role for the more vintage watchers.
Yeah.
Which he's doing, and he's dropping back because he's not involved. I think we've got to force the opponents back tactically and push them back by telling him to stay within the width for the 18-yard box. And what you need is him central. You know, and the first time he got within the width of the 18-yard box and on the 6-yard box, the ball comes over, he puts it away. You know, because he can finish, and he'll be able to do that with his head and his feet. So even that little tweak, even bringing the goalkeeper in is a positive. If we can get a central midfielder, that will really change the whole outlook. Being able to get the crosses in, you'll get more out of the crosses both sides, especially from Juve if Fulkrug's pushed further up. If I'm Potter, and I'm not a football manager, but if I'm Potter, I'm asking Fulkrug to stay 10, 15 yards further up when he can, when we're not playing against a team that's got a very high line, and just occupy them and give the defender something to think about, because it's far too easy for our opposition when Fulkrug's dropping back to the centre circle or in our own half to get involved in the game.
Yeah, but a lot of our problem, and I think this will remain, is we're never camped out or just outside the opposition's D.
No.
And that's why we will score the type of goals I think we're going to score. So I don't think you're going to see this massive transition from Moyes in terms of the beauty of our goals, if you know what I mean. I still think there's going to be a certain amount of dirty work to it, which is basically nicking the ball off the opposition or crossing it or that type of thing. But you know what, I'm all right. I think I'm so pleased with what I've seen from Juve. I can see a partnership. Would I like a fast striker in there? Yeah, I would. Would I like Bowen in a different position? Yeah, but I'm a bit of a pragmatist. I know we're not going to see him on the right wing. That's where we're going to see him. And I do think if all goes well and there's no injuries, I think both Bowen and Fulkrug will probably score more than 10 goals this season. And that in itself would probably, it would be something we've not seen in a little while. We're missing goals from elsewhere because I think Souček won't. What did he score? 9 last season. I don't think you're getting 9 out of Souček, so you need them elsewhere. But I do hope that getting another midfielder will see us have possession 20 yards further up the pitch, because people will be playing 1-2s, and we might find ourselves a little bit, you know, that area where you can play the decisive pass, where you are sort of about 20, 25 yards out, and then you can look to feed someone in. And that in itself, if the team are pushed up that much further, that will mean Fulkrug's in those positions where you want to see him, you know. And I think that's we all want to see him. So yeah, I'm interested. But the next week's going to be really, really interesting. Both the transfer window, then the build up to the game, seeing what we do against Sunderland, because again, they're going to be quicker than us, but like it or don't like it, and I don't like, as I say, it's not my type of football, but I think we are going to be hard. I do think we're going to be difficult to break down. I think we're going to be quite tough. So that's why I think our bet that we've made is going to do all right, hopefully, because I think, you know, we're just not going to concede loads and loads of goals. So yeah. Anyway, mate.
For sure, mate. We need movement. I think Somerville will make a big difference when he comes back.
He will.
Still think him or Guilherme in a 4-3-3 would give us that movement. We're going to be industrious this season. We're going to be resolute, but we're on a winning roll, Gonzo. A Boyle Sports champions. You'll never sing that.
Back next year, mate. Back